Pisces. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you today? Happy Thursday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Thursday, July 11th, 2024. What do we have in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are starting our day off with today is, we have here our Page of Wands in its reversal. This may be articulating around, and I need to stress this. One of the things that we noticed in the last daily collective read that we did was that we saw that there was a lot of alignment that was occurring. Now, one of the things that often happens is when we hit these moments of alignment, I'm often asked when we do these readings, what occurs when masculine and feminine are in alignment? When I like to point out, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Often, not very much, because when these energies are in alignment, they're both kind of staying in their own lanes, if you will. Masculine and feminine energy today going through some periods of introspection. A lot of that consideration was a continuation of some of the work that we saw that was occurring in our last reading. Now, for this will have a different impact depending on where you are on the frequency cycles. For masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency, a lot of this work is built upon, again, a sense of trying to use energetic discernment in terms of how to navigate forward. We saw that a lot of the energy deep within that frequency was trying to help and assist and lend energy to energy outside of the divine union, but being able to do so in a way that allows for personal path work to occur, that can always create a point of frustration or difficulty. It may even create moments that feel like they are misaligned, because we see that sense of gentleness, putting that point of like gentle exertion work, being able to give some things to someone, but not in a way that effectively says that this is the only way that something can be done, but rather giving one's own perception, giving one's own thought. A lot of work right now in the zone of communication in terms of recognizing and making sure that sense of understanding is clear, is present. This can sometimes be creating some hurdles right now in communication, particularly for energy deep within the divine union frequency. For masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into the divine union frequency, a lot of this work may be articulating on that sense of trepidation. If you will recall, we discussed that fact for a lot of the energy right now coming into divine union, wanting to come into that point of adaptability, it requires a level and degree of energetic discernment, because being able to do so in a way that doesn't feel like it's navigating you away from what you're building, but almost trying to enhance it to a certain degree. That is that sense of caution. But this caution that we're seeing is actually very positive, because this is energy that we're recognizing that is coming into the divine union frequency right now, that is almost looking towards the counterpart to see if there is that sense of alignment as it relates to what it is that you aspire and desire, and how you can expand upon it going forward. That always requires that sense of stepping backwards, because one of the things that we see here is a lot of the energy that's moving forward into the divine union frequency in this way. We recognize that a lot of it was not doing so just to be able to come to a means to an end. That sense of recognizing that you can have something that you feel is flourishing, that you feel like they're at that point of satisfaction, but also recognizing that it's requiring a bit of change, because what you may have essentially thought you desired when you first entered the divine union is effectively changing, because you're recognizing the change within the self. This type of work, it's fine tuning, if you will. It's like that gentle calibration. So even here we navigate and see that there's a lot of care and discretion that is being put forward in that type of communication, to be able to make sure that one isn't being misunderstood in relationality to what one aspires and how it is being received. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, a lot of this could be feeling like that work, that internal work that we see that is happening at this time. Why? Because we recognize that for a lot of the energy in separation right now, doing that work on the self doesn't feel like it's pulling you away from what isn't for you. Rather, it is almost moving forward in a way that you are utilizing that sense of that same level and degree of discernment you're putting into practice going forward as it relates to new energetic connections. This is why we see that even now there may be a lot of new energetic connections that are forming at this time, but they're being done with a level and degree of care and discernment, maybe even trepidation, because for a lot of the energy that's coming into the divine union frequency right now, that sense of alignment is one that requires that point of not feeling like you are drifting from your own goals as it relates to coming into harmony or into alignment with another. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here our 7 of Swords in its reversal. Now this is it's upright. Now this is really important, particularly for a lot of the energy and separation right now. Why do we see that these 2 cards are coming into play right now? Because we're recognizing that for a lot of the energy right now in separation, that ability of looking backwards, utilizing that pathwork of seeing what didn't work in the past, that is what is paving the way, if you will, in relationality to what you're going towards. That is why we see even now that for a lot of the energy and separation, that caution, that care, that level and degree of discernment, it is one that is built upon a lot of that assessment of the past in order to facilitate a pathwork going forward that feels like it is more in alignment to your own present self. So we see even now that some of this, and I will have to stress this right now, there could even be a lot of energy right now in separation that is unpacking experiences from the past at this time. Why are they experiencing those moments of navigating and experiencing the past again? Because the ability to recognize that you have changed enough that you would not do things the way that one did things in the past, that is what is allowing for that pathwork of recognizing and understanding what qualities have changed within the self that are allowing you to see things from a different perception. And this is what is amplifying a lot of these new energetic connections that we're seeing, because they're based on the connection towards the self and the registering and the recognizing of what one is looking to change within the self that doesn't require you to be energetically perfect to move forward, but almost allows for that point of understanding and recognizing what you are looking to change even as you move forward into new energetic connections. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, this is that same level or degree of care, of caution, of trepidation, if you will, because for a lot of the energy right now that is coming into divine union, that ability of wanting to become adaptable, wanting to make some changes, this is the energy that is doing so with a lot of care and a lot of discernment, not wanting to repeat past lessons, taking the value from the past experiences and utilizing it as a point of caution going forward. This is what is allowing that level and degree of care, even as you do something in a different way, because it is being informed upon the past experiences. While for masculine and feminine energy deep within the divine union frequency right now, this may be trying to help others recognize those same past patterns, helping them recognize and discern what feels like it is working in alignment towards them versus what they may feel like they need to change from without. We see even now, this is what we were talking about with a lot of the energy deep within the divine union, not wanting to become overly prescriptive, if you will, in relationality to someone else coming towards you, seeking advice, seeking insight, seeking understanding, right? And that level and degree of allowing for that point of balance and recognizing what feels like it is helpful and beneficial versus what feels like it's not. That is requiring a lot of the work deep within the divine union frequency right now to navigate within their own past experience to help those that are going through them in present time. Third card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here our Emperor in its reversal. Now, masculine, feminine energy, it's going to be a little bit different for masculine today, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. For a lot of the energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency, this is navigating that past pathwork, right? This is a lot of that unpacking, but what's really beautiful that we see that is occurring here, potentially, particularly for the masculine energy, again, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. A lot of that masculine energy right now, being able to effectively assist those around them, provide that level of insight, this is almost the gift. What occurs in those moments that we look back upon something and we have that sense of calibration. We have that sense of seeing something that we would do differently in the moment as opposed to something that we would do differently that we see from the past. A lot of the masculine energy right now, if these were areas or situations wherein you are carrying some sense of regret or some sense of frustration in the self, being able to implement that, being able to utilize that in a way that feels like it is helping those around you. That is that moment that the past becomes almost a gift, even when it doesn't necessarily work in alignment to you, because that's that moment that you're able to take the experiences that you yourself have had and being able to apply them to those around you from a point of advice, from a point of insight. We see even now, this is a continuation of a lot of that path work, if you will, because this is the masculine energy that even in their moment of recognizing and registering that they're not energetically perfect, it is that moment that feels like it is harmonizing, because the moment that you recognize something from one's own past that you don't feel like was necessarily perfect, but you're able to effectively impart that to someone else around you, that is almost that gift of the past experience that is being valued in a different way. So we see even now a lot of that feeling of, again, sharing advice. This is how the masculine energy isn't necessarily becoming prescriptive, because again, this isn't the masculine energy saying just do the things that I did to be able to get to render the same results. Rather, this is the masculine energy saying, here are some things that you may want to be conscientious of. Here are some things that you may want to be cautious of. Feminine energy, this may be coming forward in a supportive environment for a lot of the masculine energy that may be feeling like this right now. A lot of that ability of being able to come into a point of acceptance right now for the feminine, this is almost helping the masculine through their own energetic hurdles. Because specifically what we're seeing here is this is again the masculine energy that is being held and supported in the divine union frequency that allows that ability of being able to take one's own guard down, being able to shed one's own armor, if you will. That is almost the gift that the divine union frequency provides, a lot of the energy within the frequency that the feminine is almost creating that context of insight on. Because for a lot of the feminine energy right now, navigating one's own wounds, going through this your own energetic point of identifying what feels like the difference, and I need to stress this right now because this is important, between a masculine energy that is able to acknowledge that there is that pathwork of change there, that there is that space of not being energetically perfect. That is to the feminine energy one of the greatest gifts that they can see in masculine, because that is almost the feminine being able to show and articulate to a masculine that coming from a context of being able to see what one would change always allows for that point of adaptability. So a lot of deep healing that is happening today, potentially in the areas that I want to say are some of the more delicate, sensitive parts of the masculine self. And this is either going to be in the context of helping, if you're in the divine union, masculine energy, go through their own weaknesses, their own vulnerabilities, or providing that experience and context of the past to help masculine energy that is working through these hurdles and difficulties in recognizing that the acknowledgement of the self going through them is partially like one of the tremendous gifts that is occurring in that context, because that creates the context wherein you're moving forward with a lot of discernment and a desire to change, albeit positively. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into the divine union frequency, this is why we saw so much of that transformative energy that can happen during Cancer season right now. It creates that feeling of softness. It creates that feeling of vulnerability. So if there are connections right now that are readapting or adjusting, a lot of it may have to do with the fact of, again, an energy that entered the divine union frequency, desiring and aspiring for one thing, but not expecting to feel the vulnerability, not expecting to be able to find themselves in a place where they could feel safe enough to reconsider what it is that they truly desired and intended going forward. We see that this is a very gentle journey right now for a lot of the masculine energy across all of the frequencies, particularly even more so right now for energy that is coming into the divine union frequency, because if this is masculine energy that is feeling that softening, coming into an energetic connection, this is masculine energy that is not necessarily trying to run away from that feeling. This could even be masculine energy right now coming into divine union that may feel that similarity in what they were feeling that they felt before, but being able to, again, sit in that space of vulnerability and not effectively act upon it, almost observe it as it is occurring. This is the energy of the masculine that is finding that strength in vulnerability, that is allowing for that expansion point. Because that's that moment that, again, you're kind of surrendering the outcome, if you will, but all for the sake of following one's own heart space. For feminine energy coming into divine union frequency right now, feeling and seeing a masculine coming into that process of feeling like they can be vulnerable, feeling like they can show their most authentic sense of self. That is that moment for feminine that can also create that space or state or challenging moments here, because we see that even there, that could be feminine having those experiences or memories from the past that reemerge of moments wherein, again, masculine wasn't necessarily able to articulate it so much as they may have previously reacted from it. So you can see even now that both of these energies are navigating through vulnerability, albeit in different ways, that is allowing for new energetic outcomes to occur. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, a lot of vulnerability that is coming through right now, particularly in the realm of the new energetic connections that are forming at this time. Why? Because we see that for a lot of the masculine energy right now that is moving forward in this way, this ability of trying to be one's own sense of authentic sense of self, one's own ability of trying to be vulnerable, even at a time when you feel like you want to put your guard up. This is a lot of the masculine energy that is coming into a deeper level of honesty with the self, even at the time of making an energetic connection. And we see even now a lot of that can feel somewhat overwhelming, because this is masculine energy that is utilizing a lot of the path work from past experience to navigate their way. But what again happens in those moments that you're able to identify and recognize that there are spaces and places from the past that you would do something differently. Masculine is feeling the full vulnerability of understanding and recognizing that the present always allows for that new context to come into play. While for feminine energy right now in separation, this is, I want to say, this is a little bit more trepidatious, right? Because this is a lot of the energy of the feminine going forward right now into new energetic connections. Again, looking for that level and degree of honesty from masculine potential counterpart, looking for masculine energy that is able to recognize and understand and almost see where the masculine's own pathwork is at this time, because these are energies that are effectively finding themselves at a point of healing. Being in a point of healing means that you never have to be perfect, right? That is that ongoing journey, if you will. But being able to see that sensitive side of the masculine, that Cancer energy really coming to focus, if you will, that is for a lot of the feminine energy right now what is forging and building a lot of deep energetic connections at this time. Potentially, and again, from points of emotionality, from points of energetic softness. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here our Ace of Cups in its upright, and we love to see this. We love to see this card in combination with our Emperor in its reversal, because what do we see is happening right now, specifically for masculine energy in separation? Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. For a lot of the masculine energy, feeling that vulnerability, if you will, but not necessarily activating upon it, just allowing oneself to inhabit the space of it. This is the masculine energy that is putting a lot of this work in saying to oneself that it is okay to be vulnerable. It is okay to show one's own softer nature, because this is the masculine energy that is being very mindful of the emotional, energetic connections that they're forging as they move forward from this place. And what we see here is this almost that moment of recognizing for masculine energy going through this work is that being able to be vulnerable feels like it is healthy, feels like it is restorative, right? Because that's the masculine energy that is building into new energetic connections, not feeling like they need to create a false sense of self in order to forge an energetic connection, but almost trying to be their most authentic sense of self, but in a way that is very mindful and observant of the self in the process. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, with the feminine energy right now in separation, this is a lot of the feminine energy that is looking for those qualities and characteristics in masculine counterpart energy, being able to see that softer nature, being able to see that softer side, because this is the feminine energy that doesn't look at vulnerability as a weakness in masculine, but rather the masculine energy that is able to recognize the health and the strength in being vulnerable, that silk to steel approach, if you will. That is what is empowering and fortifying a lot of these energetic connections at a time that may feel very, very, very sensitive, right? Because it's not becoming reactionary. It's almost creating that space of accepting how one's feeling and being able to articulate upon it. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is why that vulnerability may feel like an energetic breakthrough. Because if this is masculine energy that has already come into a point where they were building a connection with feminine and their manifestation goals are already changing, these aren't the manifestation goals of a masculine that are changing because they're only articulating to them feminine now. This is the masculine energy that's almost trying to express to the feminine that anything that may be changing in their energetic connection is as a direct result of the masculine feeling that ability of being their most authentic self. The feminine energy almost becoming the home for the masculine. And this is the masculine that is, again, putting down their armor, if you will, allowing that to be articulated, allowing that to be expressed. For feminine to receive that feels like that beautiful gift of joy, because I kept saying in our last readings, that's that moment that feels like love is entering a lot of these equations. This could be a lot of energy that is changing their manifestation goals from a context of someone basically saying to another, I didn't expect to feel this way. I didn't expect to feel this safe. And that ability of feeling like one is doing so, but in a context that doesn't leave one tongue-tied, but rather almost allows for that sense of just being and inhabiting that space. That is that energy that really feels like they're moving deep into the divine union frequency very quickly, because that is the energy that doesn't feel like they're changing something for the hope of changing what exists between them and another counterpart. This is the energy that's looking at like almost like a flower that's flourishing at this time, that something is expanding and growing in ways that they did not expect, and that feels like that delightful surprise, if you will. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in deep within the divine union frequency, this can feel a little bit more sensitive, is what we're recognizing here. Why? Because we see even now, if these are energies within the divine union frequency that are doing that work and trying to facilitate and help those that are going through those similar experiences, this is the energy that is trying to articulate and amplify, if you will, their own experiences. They're trying to shed light towards those around them in terms of what they themselves have experienced, but almost allowing for that ability of someone to find their own way that requires that sense of supporting. It requires that sense of giving just enough, but not wanting to do the work for another, right? So we see even now that a lot of that mindfulness, this could even be a lot of conversations that energy is having within the divine union towards those that, again, need that same sense of alignment or working towards it in their own way. But almost, again, with the sensitivity of articulating to someone that what one has done doesn't feel like the only way in order to do something, but almost requires that level and degree of confidence of the self that allows one to understand and feel like you know what is best for the self. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today, before we start getting clarity on these cards right now, is we have here 8 of Wands in its reversal. So even here, we see a little bit of that frustration that is potentially being amplified here. A bit of that frustrating energy, right? Because even here, and this is like a lot of the work that we see that is happening, particularly deep within the divine union right now. That ability of amplifying, giving someone just what they need to motivate themselves into action, but not wanting to kind of move someone in that direction beyond their own ability to do so. This is why we see that a lot of that energy is trying to be very mindful in terms of how much they're giving forth, particularly in the realms of advice and communication, in helping someone recognize and identify the differences in their own path work versus what has worked for the energy within the divine union, right? Because when you're moving in that facility or that capacity of care for others, that ability of doing so and trying to be energetically mindful on the way, that can feel that can feel like difficult territory, right? That's almost that it requires that external calibration point. So we see even now that a lot of the energy is potentially working through that. And especially if there are spaces or places of a lack of communication or miscommunication or poor planning, we see even now that the ability to recognize and identify and modify around those right now, that is what is motivating a lot of the energy deep within the divine union. And it's hard stuff. It's hard because particularly, and I want to say it's a little bit more difficult right now for masculine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Because what we're effectively seeing right now is a lot of that work, that is the masculine energy that is recognizing and doing a lot of that past path work and identifying what hasn't worked for them in the past and almost utilizing that to help those around them at this time. So even here we see that ability, there could be a lot of work today in terms of clearing up miscommunications or anything that feels like has become a stumbling block, either helping those around you to see them or recognizing them within your own self. And a lot of this may be in the space or place of discussion, particularly, and I need to say this right now, there could be some miscommunication barriers that need to be navigated today. But that ability of doing so with a lot of intentionality and care is very important at this time. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this adaptability point that we're effectively seeing it right now, this has a lot to do with the changing of plans. There could be a lot of energy right now that is coming into divine union that is recognizing that their plans are changing. Why are these plans changing effectively? Because a lot of this energy, particularly some of the masculine, more so on the masculine side, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. That is that motivational point where one recognizes that you didn't expect to feel the way that you're feeling, right? That ability of suddenly feeling like that blossoming within you, that vulnerability that comes forth. A lot of the energy right now, it almost feels like something is like taking a sharp turn, if you will, because this is the energy that suddenly, that's when we see that a manifestation goal changes. And it doesn't change to be able to facilitate something changing between you and an energetic connection. It's more that ability of recognizing and finding oneself where you are that may have felt unexpected, that is requiring that sense of change or that change space of adaptability. Because for a lot of the masculine energy right now coming into divine union, as we said, it's almost that moment of saying, I could not anticipate that I would desire these things because I didn't expect to feel this way. For the feminine energy, recognizing and registering that, that is again the difference between feeling like the rug is being pulled out from under you, as opposed to someone being honestly expressing how they feel. That softening, if you will, that feels like, again, an honest conversation, being able to see something that you couldn't see before. While for masculine and feminine energy right now in separation, this discernment, this sense of trepidation, this is like the hallmark to a lot of the new energetic connections that are forming at this time. And it may feel, I need to say this, it may feel a little stuttering. It may feel a little, like, I want to say, like, it feels to me like something is almost like, it's like an engine that's getting kicked on to a certain extent, because this is the energy that is not just throwing themselves into something from a point of like just deep, like just going for it. This is more the energy of caution, but utilizing that caution from a point of sensitivity is the amplification of the care and the effort and energy that the new energetic connections are making at this time, because this is the energy that is looking very carefully towards what feels like it is restorative, what feels like it is in one's own best sense of self. This is the energy that's moving into new energetic connections right now, but being very mindful of not losing alignment on the way. And that takes a little bit more slowness. But that slowness that we're seeing is almost a point of intentionality, because this is the energy that doesn't want to rush into something if they don't feel like their heart is moving in the right direction. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Page of Wands in its reversal in combination with our Seven of Swords in its upright. May I please have one card to clarify, please? Clarification coming through right now with our Page of Pentacles in its upright. So there's a lot of people here right now. There's a lot of potential communication that is occurring. But what's really invaluable that we're seeing that is happening right now, particularly for energy that is in separation. This could be a lot of new energetic connections that are forming at this time. But what's really valuable and important about a lot of the new energetic connections that are forming at this time is there's a lot of mindfulness in relationality to the past experience. Right? There's a lot of consideration being put into situations and circumstances that feel like they weren't necessarily in alignment towards you. For the energy right now, and I'm not surprised to see this, in separation, that ability of not moving into that space of fantasy, not moving into that space of seeing something that isn't there, but almost moving in that space of practicality, if you will. That ability of recognizing and identifying that tangibility is more, again, a lot of what the work of the energy and separation is doing at this time, because this is the energy that is leading first, articulating what it is that they're seeking in a connection, potentially like going through like the facts, if you will, like really making sure that one is on the same page with another prior to starting to build a passionate connection. We see that that is why there is so much of this discernment that is potentially occurring in these spaces or places. Why? Because a lot of the energy in separation right now is working through healing past situations or circumstances that may have been built more from a place of the passion center, but didn't necessarily feel like it created that sense of emotional health or vitality, right? So that ability, and I want to say it even now, it feels a little like restrictive, if you will. This could even be feeling to a certain extent like you're holding one's own self back to a certain extent, because this is the energy that is trying to identify and really recognize the tangibility point of an energetic connection prior to establishing a passionate point. And so even here, if there is something about communication feeling stilted or stalled or halted to a certain extent, this is the energy that's doing that from a place of high energetic care. And that high energetic care is high energetic care of the self. And not wanting to get ahead of oneself is almost requiring that sense of pause to be able to, like, I want to say, like, test the water, if you will, to identify and recognize what feels like it is in alignment towards you, versus just kind of moving in the direction that your own passion may previously have dictated. While for masculine and feminine energy right now coming into divine union, as I said, there could be a lot more deepening commitments that are happening at this time. I see even now that there's a lot of that energy, something that may have only existed in the air between a counterpart and another counterpart, suddenly coming through in the way or space of tangible offers here. Because what we're effectively identifying and recognizing that is occurring right now is a lot of that feeling, that opening up, if you will, that blossoming that we see, particularly from the masculine energy. This is the masculine that almost feels like they're leading forward from like a true, I want to say a true authentic offer towards feminine, because this is, again, not masculine energy that is hoping to change an energetic connection by offering something to the feminine. Rather, this is the masculine energy that feels that vulnerability within, and they want to be able to put it into a point that they can be able to touch it or feel it from without. So we see even now that this could be the solidifying of a lot of what may have felt like unspoken commitment offers between energetic connections that is moving energy right now deeper into the divine union frequency. While masculine and for feminine energy experiencing and recognizing that occurring, this is the feminine who's also potentially having a lot of thoughts on the past as well, because this is not feminine seeing, again, a masculine that's trying to change what exists energetically between them and a counterpart by offering something tangible. This could even be feminine feeling like they're going through a path of recorrection in feeling the difference between someone trying to fix something by offering something tangible, as opposed to masculine leading from the heart space, coming from a place of authenticity and just wanting to take something that they're feeling that is hard to put into words and finding some way to be able to show what it is that they're energetically feeling. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep within the divine union frequency, this is a lot of that work that we may see, giving insight, giving advice, trying to assist others in this capacity right now, because I see that a lot of the energy deep within the divine union frequency right now is very much in that helping modality, if you will, and that ability of effectively, again, trying to give forth in a way that feels like it is assisting, feels like it is supportive, but almost, again, a lot of this potentially coming in the space or place of advice, that guidance point of the past. This is a lot of the energy that is coming forward in this way, that is utilizing a lot of discernment and discretion to again, try to motivate those around a situation or circumstance to take what they need to take from something in a positive way, but also not trying to be prescriptive in the moment that you offer something to someone, recognizing that how they choose to use it or what they choose to do with it is effectively up to them. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Seven of Swords in its upright in combination with our Emperor card in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Page of Cups in its reversal. We've got a lot. We've got 3 of the 4 page cards out right now. A lot of potential communication that is occurring today. A lot of communication, a lot of planning, but also a lot of accommodation that we see is potentially happening, specifically for energy deep within the divine union frequency. And I gotta say, even now, some of this, it does carry a little bit of that energy of, I want to say, providing something to someone, but not in the context that they would effectively desire or aspire something being given to them. Why are we effectively seeing this to a certain extent? Because we're recognizing that, again, a lot of the energy deep within the divine union frequency is trying to amplify that ability of understanding that when one is on a path work, that what works for one might not necessarily work for another, right? It always requires that sense, or it always requires that space of recognizing and identifying that adaptability point, that change point, is something that needs to be found from within. So what do we see that a lot of the energy deep within the divine union frequency is doing right now? They're working from that sense of mindfulness. They're trying to give someone that point of encouragement to be able to seek the path work for themselves, but in a way that feels like it is supportive, in a way that feels like it's like the energy that's like cheering on the sidelines, if you will, trying to help someone, motivate them going forward, if you in a certain way, because this is the energy that is, again, trying to lead forth from example in a way, to help those around them recognize and identify their own value, their own strength, and their own power, right? And that is, I want to say, even here, we see the energy within the union, recognizing that is difficult work, right? It requires a very gentle hand. So we see a lot of the energy deep within the divine union frequency, navigating that sensitivity in a way that can feel very difficult at times, because that's that moment that you may be like, there could be a lot of sensitive conversations that are happening right now, having to navigate sensitive subjects, being able to do so in a way that allows for the intentionality and purpose to come through, even if it creates a moment that may feel a little difficult for someone to energetically navigate or hear. That is that moment that we almost feel like that gift of like tough love, right? Like that tough love that we feel when we're trying to do something in a way that isn't easy, but is almost in a way energetically necessary. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now. A lot of this energy, we're seeing that this is coming into the formation of new commitment offers, new energetic opportunities, and that ability of navigating forward in such a way right now. A lot of that could be the changing of manifestation goals, because what we effectively see that is happening for a lot of the energy coming into divine union right now is that like that critical moment where you recognize that something that you're feeling for another becomes the catalyst for change, because that moment that you feel the expression of love or that expression of sensitivity, that almost feels like a little bit of that energetic surprise, because it can feel somewhat overwhelming, because it's almost creating a vector that you couldn't necessarily recognize prior to being in the moment of feeling it, because this is the energy that's almost saying, if there's a change that's happening right now for some of the energy within the divine union frequency, a lot of it is maybe even sharing that, not just to the energy that you're coming into divine union with, but to the energy around the situations and scenarios, much like we saw the energy doing a few weeks ago deep within the divine union, saying, again, I didn't expect to feel this way. I didn't expect to have this. I didn't expect to have that energetic, like that catalyst being like one's own emotionality that is suddenly allowing for a point of tangibility. So this could be a lot of this energy right now moving into a deepened state of, I want to say, commitment, because of the emotional sensitivity that is awakening for a lot of the energy coming into divine union. For masculine, that feels more like a vulnerability point, if you will. It may feel something that is a little bit more emotionally overwhelming, because for the masculine energy, that's that moment of feeling the love that is the ability of being one's own authentic sense of self, and not feeling like one needs to hide, not feeling like one needs to have their armor up. While for feminine, that may be feeling more like that sense of like relief, or that sense of like, again, emotional expression or expansion, seeing a masculine that's coming towards you from a place of such deep authenticity. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, a lot of this work that we're seeing that is occurring right now in the vector of separation has to do a bit more with conscientiousness, a bit more trepidation. Why? Because we see that a lot of energy right now is moving into new energetic connections from a place of deep vulnerability and deep authenticity. So we could see even now, this could be the realm of very deep, I want to say very deep conversations happening very quickly. I'm even seeing here someone being like, I can almost see someone being like, I didn't expect to tell you that. I didn't expect to say these things to you. Because this is a lot of the energy that's coming from such a deep space of vulnerability. It's a lot of that Cancerian energy that's coming to bear, that's almost allowing for those like deep wells to be springing forth, even at a moment of a new energetic connection. But even here, we see, like, even if these are energies that are talking about difficult things, this is restorative. This is like that moment that you have a hard, deep conversation, but it feels cathartic. It feels positive because it's coming from a place of deep authenticity. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between our Emperor in its reversal in combination with our Ace of Cups in its upright. May I please have one card to clarify? Very emotional day today. A lot of emotions here. 10 of Cups, and apologies, 9 of Cups in its upright. And what's nice about this type of energy, it's not rushed. This is a very slow day emotionally. I just got to tell you, this is some slow down energy here that we're effectively seeing, because a lot of what we're seeing or experiencing right now, I want to say, it feels a little bit like that stillness, if you will, right? It feels like a bit of that, like I want to say, I'm seeing it now, difficult conversations that lead to deep points of catharsis, right? Because this does give some kind of state or space of contemplation. There's a lot of contemplation energy that I see is occurring right now, particularly around circumstances and situations across all of the frequencies, right? For the energy in separation right now, this is a very nice energy that we see for a lot of the energy in separation right now, because I want to say this is moving towards a new energetic connection with an open palm, if you will. What do I mean by an open palm? This is the energy that it doesn't feel like, it's not giving me the type of energy here of someone trying to like impress someone else. It's not giving the type of energy of trying to put on like a show, if you will, in relationality to the connections that are being brought forth at this time. This is almost that energy that feels more, I want to say, casual. It feels more calm. It feels more still. It feels more contemplative. So we see even now, this could be, I want to say, if these are new connections that are forming on days like today, we're seeing that a lot of it could be feeling the expression of almost feeling that sense of saying you're very easy to talk to. You're very easy to communicate with. You just have that way about you, if you will, right? Because what we're effectively seeing right now is a lot of that energy. Why are they feeling that in coming into a new energetic connection? Because this is the energy that's done the work on the self. This is the energy that isn't moving forward right now, trying to create an energetic connection from a place of trying to change the self into what another might aspire and desire one to be. Rather, that ability of feeling the confidence and security of the self and being able to be very open and expressive from that place. That is what is allowing for a lot of this authenticity, as it were, in relationality to energetic connections. And a lot of it may be being seen, again, in a lot of clarity that is being brought forth very early on in these energetic connections that is allowing for that ability to be open, right? Because when we're open with one another, when we're coming from a place of being able to be our authentic sense of self, it doesn't require us to have to feel like we need to put all that struggle into trying to put that false sense of self up all the time. So a lot of the energy right now is deeply seeking authenticity in connection, particularly in the realm of building new energetic connections. And they're almost utilizing that value point in how they feel about themselves, the comfortability that they feel within the self, that is helping the energy right now coming into divine union navigate what they feel is right for them, as opposed to feeling the anxiety of what's not for them. So a lot of this energy right now coming into like building into new connections, this is the energy that's not trying to fake something. This is the energy that's just looking for the authenticity of the connection itself as the valuation point as to whether something should proceed forward. Masculine and feminine energy right now coming into divine union. This is why we see that there may be a lot of new energetic connections that are deep, that have been moving into that point of building now into what could be a solid energetic offer. So if these are energies that what they were experiencing, they haven't necessarily really put that commitment towards one another right now. We see a lot of that same deep diving, if you will, that may be the amplification of satisfaction, because this is an energy that is changing something to make it change. This is energy that is re-describing what is existing between them because it feels more comfortable to articulate it as such, because it's giving a name to something that feels more appropriate to what it is, right? It's kind of like identifying what exists between you and another in a way that feels more comfortable. So we see a lot of satisfaction that could be happening right now, even in the realm of these deep conversations, because it doesn't feel like it actually is changing something. It's changing something literally to more accurately express what's happening energetically. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep within the divine union frequency, I see a lot of realms right now on conversations of others giving each other honest opinions, honest feedback, honest thoughts, honest insights. A lot of conversation right now that are being expressed from a place of openness, honesty, and clarity. And what's interesting about that right now, and this is why it could create a little bit of a friction point for some of the energy right now deep within the divine union frequency, is if this is energy that you're trying to just be your most authentic, honest version of self, and someone's coming towards you that isn't necessarily in that vibration, that can sometimes create a moment where being your authenticity, it may create something that feels like a barrier of communication, right? Because that's that moment of, again, expressing something from a place because you care, giving that voice to something from an authentic place. What happens when we speak authentically? We speak authentically from a place where we're not trying to motivate someone forward, right? So much as we're trying to tell someone how something is, right? So we see even now, this could be some conversations that are happening in divine union in terms of our trying to articulate. And even here, I can see some of the energy within the divine union saying being able to speak honestly and authentically, even if it creates that hurdle, if that creates a blockage point in another, that's almost that moment. It's not the solution isn't to recalibrate and not speak from a place of authenticity. It's almost that moment. I can kind of see that some of the energy right now that's working within the divine union, it may feel a little bit more like saying to someone or speaking to counterpart and saying it's hard because I need to tell them something that's hard for them to hear. I need to say something to someone that is a bit of a challenging zone, because sometimes when we speak from a place of care and love, we don't do it just to like put a balm on another's ego. We do it with a sense of truly saying, I'm saying what I feel. Again, it's coming from a place of authenticity, even if it's difficult. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between our Ace of Cups in combination with our Eight of Wands in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Chariot energy. So we like to see this, because this is the positive here. This is the restorative aspect of a conversation or situations of this nature, right? Because that's that moment that when one speaks from a place of authenticity, when one speaks from a place of openness, it allows, even in a modality where something feels like it creates even if this creates a communication breakdown, even that feels like it is energetically informative, right? Because this is effectively the energy within the divine union frequency that is looking to navigate from their, like, it's bringing their own authenticity towards those around them to a certain extent. And there's that moment or modality that, again, that sensitivity point in having what may feel like an honest expression of how one feels, but also registering that how one feels another might not feel. May even be that moment of saying to someone something difficult because you know it is true, but recognizing and trying to register as to whether it's true for them. This could be navigating. This could be some hurdles that need to be navigated today. This could be articulating, like I said, difficult conversations. But again, what is the energy within the divine union, like articulating to those outside the divine union? They're giving the same lesson that they learned from within, which is, again, a strong energetic connection can navigate a difficult conversation. So we see even now, like a lot of the energy right now is like almost imparting that information to energy around their own frequency, because that is the energy that is, again, putting the practice into play of what they've learned in connection to one another, that is helping them in navigating the territory outside the self. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now, this could be some adaptability points that are changing very quickly, because this isn't energy right now. If there's a change that is occurring here, if there's a change of plans, this isn't a change of plans that is leading to a stoppage point. This is a change of plans that is leading to a new direction, a new course of action. This is like that surprise turn, if you will, that potentially happens. And it's happening for a lot of positive reasons here, especially and particularly if this is masculine, coming from a state or space of authenticity, articulating to the feminine, again, their own vulnerability and relationality to situations and circumstances that they didn't anticipate feeling the way that they do. A lot of this feels like work to getting into alignment, right? A lot of this feels like that work that feels like you're on the same page. So we see even now, like this is I want to say, like this almost feels like moments of surprise or delight or happy opportunity that is coming here, because these are the energies that are not trying to make changes within their connection for the sake of changing the energy between them and another and a counterpart. This is the energy that feels like they're moving something into deeper alignment in terms of really amplifying and articulating that inevitability point that is occurring in something that hasn't been spoken of or articulated before, right? This is like that moment that almost feels like that deepening of the energetic connection, because a lot of this energy is just moving deeper into the heart of the frequency. While for the energy right now in separation, a lot of this energetic discernment, this is why we see a lot more of this stop-start, if you will, right now. A lot more of this stop-start, right? Because this is the energy that is not trying to rush an energetic connection. This is the energy in separation that is almost amplifying or saying to themselves, I'll know when the time is right. I know when it'll feel right. And this is the energy that doesn't feel like they need to rush into a connection. This is an energy that's almost looking for the hallmark of a connection that doesn't feel like it needs to rush, because it articulates or amplifies the comfortability of being able to move at a pace that feels like it is in alignment to you. So for a lot of the energy right now, if these are new energies coming into connection, this could be articulating upon one's own life, one's own pathwork, what the shape of one's life, being able to try to make plans, even in the context of what doesn't feel like it's in alignment, right? So we see even now, and I like to point this out, I feel like this is what's coming through in a reading like this, circumstances don't change people, they reveal people. So the ability of the energy right now to almost experience and recognize those points or those hurdles. This could be a lot of energy right now that is almost articulating the hurdles, or like saying like the hard things first as it relates to energetic connections. But what they're experiencing is not potentially that stoppage point. It could be a lot of energy being like, that's not a problem for me. I don't consider that a hurdle, right? So being able to have what happens in those moments is something that you may have articulated was a hurdle that may have even created an energetic breakdown in past connections, and making a new energetic connection that says, that doesn't feel like a bad thing to me. That sounds actually like a delightful thing. That sounds like it works perfectly. This is a lot of energy that is suddenly recognizing the misalignments of past connections that is being amplified in the easement of some of the new energetic connections that are occurring. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Page of Pentacles in its upright and our Page of Cups in its reversal. A lot of page energy here today. So a lot of new conversations, new opportunities, new connections, a lot of new here. We've got here our Three of Wands, heavy planning day, heavy prioritization today in plans, communication, especially around anything that feels like it may have been held up, right? We're just seeing that here. A lot of this, like I want to say, a lot of road opening today, as it were, in relationality. Because again, a lot of this may be a bit of articulating on what was the energetic blocker, or what is the energetic blocker, to be able to navigate through it, right? Because this is the energy that isn't looking towards situations and circumstances as a reason. This is the energy that's trying to seek a way through what feels like an obstacle here. And a lot of this could be, again, this is a lot of energetic discernment. I'll put it this way. I see a lot of energy right now in separation that is very much not deviating. I want to say this. They're not deviating from their norm in relationality to making a new energetic connection. Why? Because some of the energy in separation may be working through path work where they recognize that by becoming too adaptable to another person's timeline or to another person's schedule, that in a way, that kind of set the temperature, if you will, in what didn't necessarily work in the past, right? So a lot of this energy in separation is doing a lot of that work in trying to be as authentic as possible in relationality towards setting authentic expectations. Not over promising, not becoming too adaptable, not becoming too flexible, if you will. Because we see even now that a lot of the energy in separation is working through some path work of recognizing if there were experiences in the past where you felt like you had to become too accommodating in order to be able to facilitate a connection with a counterpart energy. If this is energy that is seeing that didn't necessarily lead to the best energetic outcome, this is energy that is trying to move forward and correct that by being as authentic and articulate as possible in relationality as to what one can expect, so as not to overly set an expectation that one cannot maintain, or not coming from a place of feeling like you may have to recalibrate that going forward. So a lot of authenticity in relationality to the energetic connections. And that's why we see a little bit of this casualness here. Because this is not tight. This is not someone trying to hold on and say I want to build a connection towards you at all cost. This is the energy that says, what feels like it's an alignment will be in alignment when it's ready to be in alignment. And the energy that like has that ability of adaptability and seeing that to us in a certain extent, like that's the energy that almost like feels that point of like easement, because I'm seeing here even now a lot of the energy moving in this way is like, I'm so glad you see it this way too. Like this is the energy of like the like attracts like in that way, that is allowing for a bit more of that casualness to enter new connections. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. This is a lot of energy that is getting more serious. This is a lot of energy that is potentially really grounding a lot of what may have existed in the unspoken place between them and a counterpart right now, coming into the tangibility point. And you'll see even now, what's intriguing about that is this is an energy that's doing so in order to change what feels like is already present between them in a connection. It's almost just putting something to what's already there, right? It's like, it's just naming what's already there in a way that feels right, in a way that feels more comfortable, right? And if these were situations or circumstances, whereas like the the vectors of limitation in terms of what you first identified something as no longer feel like they fit, well, that feels like a moment of beautiful positivity, because it allows for that expansion point of possibility that occurs in that moment, that is allowing you to start to speak more clearly and with more confidence in relationality to the future. So we see even now like a lot of that energy entering divine, moving deeper into divine union, isn't even talking so much about the present so much as they're talking about what awaits or what they see on that next horizon, setting new manifestation goals. Masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency. This is why there's a little bit more of that shrug mentality that may be occurring right now around situations or circumstances. Because for a lot of the energy deep within the divine union frequency, you already have that perspective. You may already be inhabiting that perspective to a certain extent. And what's occurring right now, and this is why it may feel like it's creating a little bit more struggle energy for the energy deep within the divine union frequency, is if these are circumstances or situations wherein someone's coming towards you for your perception on something, and your own perception deviates in such a way from what another is able to see, well, that's that moment that either feels like that sense of relief in someone being able to appreciate an outside perspective that may give them some point of like, that's either that value point, and someone's like saying like, thank you for your perspective. I value that. I recognize that you're seeing it in a way that I haven't, as opposed to what could feel more oppositional, which is why this could be a little bit more of a hairy energy for some of the energy deep within the divine union frequency, because that could be that moment where you're trying to give your perception on something and someone doesn't feel like they appreciate, like they don't, if they're not in that modality of being able to recognize it, or they're coming towards you too much from an ego-centered space, they may take it too energetically personally, and that could effectively yield some of that, like, some of that more frustrating energy here in terms of trying to say to someone, I'm just giving you my perspective. I'm sorry if like you don't necessarily feel that, like, this is, you see where we can almost see like, this is where we can see like that's a little bit of that like stepping on toes energy that some of the energy within the divine union may feel like they're navigating, particularly if these are situations or circumstances wherein someone came towards them seeking that in the first place. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Page of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Nine of Cups in its upright. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Moon card in its reversal. Today is like all about the honest conversations. And so this is what I'm going to say right now, because I can already see where this is going. All right, so here's the thing. So especially for a lot of the energy within the divine union frequency, because I can see even now for some of the energy within the divine union frequency, a lot of this work has to come towards navigating situations and circumstances from a place of honesty. right? Because when we move forward from a place of like truly caring, right, it requires us to bring a level or degree of honesty to things, right? And we see even now that for a lot of the energy within the divine union frequency, you know, that ability to kind of articulate from a very honest, authentic place, I want to say there's a little bit of this, I want to say, this is energetic alignment that's happening here, right? Because if this is energy within the divine union that's speaking from a place of clarity and openness, and especially towards energy that's either coming towards the divine union in a place of like needing or desiring that, that is either coming through of one of two different modalities. That's either the energy that comes towards the divine union, energy within the divine union from that place, and appreciates that authenticity and that clarity. Like they appreciate the ability of being able to be given something in a way that one can't see something from a different perspective, right? Even if that feels emotionally overwhelming, right? That moment of hearing something that's difficult to hear or experiencing something that's difficult to experience. When we come towards someone too much from a state of the ego, right? When we allow the ego to act as a blocker, then that's that moment that another person's honesty, we take very energetically personally, right? So we see even now, like some of the energy within the divine union frequency is either navigating circumstances or situations wherein they're lending that insight. They're lending that clarity in a way that feels like it is supported, helpful, productive. It feels like someone is appreciative of that versus having to navigate some territory that may feel frustrating towards the energy within the divine union, because that's that moment that if like, you know, someone comes towards you from that place of need and you do what one can do, or you speak authentically, but it isn't received in the same vibration that you would desire or aspire it to be put forth in, you know, one doesn't change one's own like modality in that moment. It almost creates that point of having to help articulate and understand or help someone else recognize that that wasn't coming from a place of like one's own honesty or expression, wasn't meant to create a state of someone else being like like their own ego taking that as like an energetic wound, right? So this could be a little bit, there could be a lot of difficult, heavy conversations for energy right now in divine union that are either leading to breakthroughs, like open emotional breakthroughs, or potentially leading to, I want to say, like more of that energy of conflict that leads to like further separation, because that's that moment of recognizing or registering the difference of someone coming towards you energetically from a place of curiosity and openness versus someone trying to come towards you from a place of hoping that one will change, right? While for masculine and feminine energy right now, and there's a little bit, I want to say there's a little bit of this energy within divine union I'm seeing that's a little bit of this like shrug, like this like, what are you going to do kind of thing, like what are you going to do, like, while for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into the divine union frequency, this is going to feel more positive. It's emotional here. We can see that that's emotional because we see even now, you know, what happens in that modality that you feel something changes within. Like the question that's being asked for a lot of the energy coming into divine union or moving deeper into the heart of divine union right now is, do you feel it too? Is this something that just I'm experiencing, or do you feel this as well? And so we see even now, again, the energy that's moving with that sense of sensitivity, having that difficult work, having those authentic, hard conversations. That's that modality that can lead to a lot of breakthroughs, right? It can lead to a lot of that expansiveness. It can lead to a lot of expressiveness. There may be some feelings right now, you know, coming into divine union. This is more of that letting go process, if you will, because this is that seriousness. What's really happening right now is a lot of the energy coming into divine union. This is that seriousness of something like becoming serious, if you will. And so the ability of inhabiting that space, what's beautiful about this is this isn't the energy coming in that space feeling like, I guess I have to change now. This is the energy that's almost amplifying to one another and saying the change has already occurred. I already feel like this. I can't not feel like this, right? This is the energy that's just being honest and authentic about how they feel, and that seriousness that is leading to, again, if this is energy that previously would have potentially ran away from articulating that feeling, but instead is allowing themselves the space to just inhabit it and articulate upon it. This could be leading to a lot of the energy right now moving into deeper commitment offers and relationality towards what you're building with the counterpart energy. While for the energy right now in separation, this is the energy right now in separation that is utilizing a very, very high degree in discernment in relationality to the connections that they're making at this time. This is the energy in separation that is suffering no fools. Like, that's the only way I can put it. There's no suffering of fools here. This is the energy in separation saying you either come serious or you don't come at all. Like, you come towards someone from a place of clarity and openness. This is a lot of the energy in separation. Again, not being patient about it, not being willing to wait, not saying to themselves, well, if someone's coming through like in a way that's like confusing, I'll just stick around. This is the energy saying the energy that's open will just be open. The energy that's honest will just be honest. That isn't something that one has to aspire, desire to change within a person. This is the energy moving in separation saying my job is to observe it. My job is just to observe if that same, and that is the energy that's inhabiting that state, doing that hard work. And this is some of that Leo. This is the Leo energy that's starting to come in. This is the Leo energy that's starting to come in that's basically saying, if I have to go through all this work, if I'm doing all of this work, then you have to do all this work too, right? This is the energy that's saying, like, this is the energy that's not looking for something outside of the self that they're not aspiring and creating within. This is the energy that says you got to keep up. If I'm doing this, you got to do this. If I'm doing this work, you got to do this work. So this is the energy that's like seeking that same sense of, and it's hard, right? It's hard to be open. It's hard to be authentic. It's not easy. But this is the energy that's almost saying to themselves, if I've gone to all the trouble of being authentic and open in this way, I'm seeking that in the counterpart. Continuing to get clarification and being very frank about it. I got to tell you right now, there's a lot of the energy right now that's just like not really going to pull a punch in relationality to articulating that, because it's coming through from like, so this is giving me like Cancer truth serum, if you will, just like a lot of openness and honesty in relationality to how one is feeling and what one is seeking in connection and what one will not tolerate, like in things. So there, I'm telling you, it's like the little bit of that, like the claws of the Cancer energy coming through today on this. Continuing to get clarification. It's like, I'll put it this way. It's the sensitivity that requires a thick skin, right? To have a sensitive conversation, you got to have thick skin. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. And that's hard because then we've got the Leo journey that's starting to enter. So that could be a little difficult to the ego, right? Because that's what the Leo energy's got to work on. They got to work on that ego. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Nine of Cups in its upright and our Chariot energy. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Ace of Pentacles in its reversal. So there's just a lot of this energy and separation. I told you, a lot of this like modality in what feels practical. Like a lot of this concentration that is being focused on what is being tangibly shown. What someone can truly offer to a certain extent. So we see that a lot of the energy right now, and I appreciate this, because this is, again, I want to say, like when we see this type of energy here, and this is why it doesn't come off. I want to say this is why an energetic signature like this doesn't come off as condescending, because the energy that's in this modality is not effectively seeking something that they're not seeking within their own self. I see that a lot of the energy in separation is whole, like that's what we mean when we talk about setting the energetic standard, if you will, right? Because the difference between like when having having a boundary versus setting an energetic standard is effectively or energetically the equivalent to a certain extent in being able to amplify, as it were, the difference effectively or energetically between saying to oneself, this is what I aspire for in others, but this is also what I aspire for in the self, right? So a lot of the energy in separation is moving forward, holding that energetic standard to a certain extent by saying effectively, what I'm asking of you, potential counterpart, is no more or less than what I'm also willing to offer in kind. So what's really beautiful about this energetic signature that we're seeing for a lot of the energy in separation is this is the energy that has to recognize how much they themselves give. Because they're almost saying to a lot of the energy in separation right now, I'm not asking for anything that I myself am not willing to give in turn. Right? That's the energy, that's the balance, as it were, in relationality of why we see so much authenticity and an honest expression that is occurring right now in these new connections. Because this is the energy that's saying, this is what you can expect from me. This is what I am willing to give you. Are you willing to meet me in the same modality? And that's not the energy that's waiting for the hemming or the hawing or the uncertainty. The energy that's almost looking and saying, are you with me here or are you not? Are you able to join me in this capacity or are you not, right? Masculine and feminine energy right now, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, that is coming into divine union right now. This is the energy that's deepening, like a lot of deepening commitments right now. A lot of energy that is deepening, but what's beautiful about the deepening of the commitment, I need to stress this again, because this is what we're seeing. This is not energy that's in moving into a partnership and saying, well, things aren't really going well. I wonder if we change what this is called, if something will change here and make it feel better. This is the energy that says, the word that we're calling this does not accurately identify what this feels like this is. This is why the energy right now is going to so much work in terms of utilizing and rebuilding to a certain extent, because this is the energy that says, we're trying to find the right word to describe what already is present, what already is there. So a lot of that is that anxiety point, because that's that moment, the minute you say that to someone, you say, do you feel that too? Right? And so what we see here, and this is what's really beautiful, is there's a lot of that energetic hand holding that's happening here in terms of someone saying, I am also this invested. I am also this committed to this. I am also willing to put that much effort and energy in. So we see even now, like a lot of that work is a lot of energy right now coming into a deepening of an energetic commitment. But it's not even changing something. It's more the acknowledging of what is there and being able to effectively or energetically make that adjustment point or make that change, as it were. Continuing to get clarification for the energy right now that is deep within the divine union. This is why the energy, to a certain extent, if there's something about energy coming towards the divine union from a point of view or perspective of asking for something, and the energy is giving it in some way, this is the energy that even if it isn't being received in the way that one would aspire and desire, this doesn't change what the energy within the divine union is offering. Right? Because that, in a way, this is almost the energy within the divine union speaking towards themselves and amplifying and saying that that would be the opposite of what is required, because that would require a point of duplicity. That would be giving someone what they think they need, like want, instead of what they energetically need. So we see even here, like a little bit of that energy that we're recognizing about that frustration point has to do with navigating situations and circumstances for the divine energy and the divine union that feel like they are in alignment, that feel like they're giving someone what is being asked for, but potentially not in the way that someone expects or desires to receive it. That's why we saw that difficulty of conversation, if you will, because that's almost that moment of saying, like, you know, especially if someone's coming towards you for advice, right? The best way I can describe this is like if someone comes towards you for advice and then, you know, you say to them, like, to a certain extent, like, well, do you want my honest opinion, or do you want me to tell you what I think you want to hear, right? Like one of those is coming to a place of just creating catharsis, right? The other is someone truly feeling like they're giving someone what they're asking for. So we see even now, like navigating some of that territory can feel a little bit difficult for the energy in the divine union frequency, because that's that moment that can feel like a little bit of a hurdle that's either received in a positive way or not, depending on how, how open someone is in receiving that type of energetic feedback, if you will. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between our Three of Wands in its upright in combination with our Moon card in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Queen of Wands in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is deep within the divine union frequency. A lot of this work that we're effectively or energetically seeing to a certain extent, a lot of this has to do with any feelings of frustration or miscommunication, anything in that modality, as it were, that is requiring that sense of correction. So we see even now, for a lot of the energy deep within the divine union frequency, some of this could feel like points of frustration, if you will, because even in that modality, as we were articulating, the ability to be one's own authentic, expressive version of self requires that ability of being able to speak honestly. And we see even now, look at these energies right now within the divine union. It's that moment of frustration, because it's that modality of being able to be authentic, if you will, that requires that ability of being like, that's that moment, I want to say, of recognizing again what someone would like to hear versus what one would aspire and desire to truly tell someone. So we see even now like that ability of navigating that kind of territory, that ability of navigating. For masculine and feminine, it feels like different journeys right now. For masculine, it's requiring a lot of vulnerability. For feminine, it's requiring a state or space of not allowing oneself to get defensive, right? So we see even now, it feels a little bit more like the feminine moving from a state or space of like emotional or energetic security. While for masculine, it almost feels like a required softening, as it were. So we see even now, and there could be a little bit of protectiveness or defensiveness that it comes across for some of the energy in the divine union, potentially and particularly if there's a feeling of the counterpart being misappreciated or misunderstood in that context or in that narrative, particularly in relationality to energy that is moving towards a divine union in that way. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now, this is the energetic softening in the recognizing and identifying of the value the counterpart energy has become in the life of the other. Because if these are modalities wherein it feels like something has changed, that unseen moment, this isn't the energy that is changing their manifestation goals for someone. And there could even be a moment of having to recalibrate and explain to others that isn't something that is being demanded or required of another energetic counterpart. This is the energy that's almost articulating that they're coming and finding themselves through the energetic counterpart. So even here, this could also be that moment of recognizing and identifying, like having to clarify to energy around circumstances or situations if they see things are changing, that isn't something that is being occurred because another is asking it to occur, so much as it's almost the energy saying, I was not myself before I came into this energetic counterpart. I'm finding myself within the connection. So we see even now having to navigate anything that feels like a miscommunication or a misclarification, even within the energy coming into divine union, that might require a little bit of work here. While for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation right now, this is the energy that is putting all sorts of caution in relationality to building new energetic connections with counterparts based on experiences from the past, wherein they feel like for feminine, feeling like your standards were not held to the same energetic standard as the masculine was holding theirs, or for masculine feeling like you are not necessarily in situations or relationships where you could be your most authentic version of self. For both of these energies right now, what we're effectively seeing is that moment that the past becomes a value asset, because this is the energy that's holding the affirmation of not returning to past experiences, that is guiding the way in relationality to moving forward. But even here, we see that some of that past energy returning to a certain extent, it requires a bit of recalibration, because I see even now that a lot of this energy in separation feels like they have to bring up the past experiences wherein that did happen, but almost from a modality of, again, articulating the things that they've changed within themselves versus the things that occurred around them. And that ability of identifying and recognizing, this is the energy that feels like they're finding one another along the way. Because again, this is an energy that's saying all of these things happened to me, and here I am. This is the energy that's articulating back and forth to one another and saying, these are the things that I needed to change. These are the things that I'm actively changing. These are the things that I could not change, and those are the things I'm letting go. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Moon card in its reversal and our Ace of Pentacles in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Thank you. Clarification coming through right now with our Magician in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in separation, authenticity, clarity is key. Because for a lot of the energy right now in separation, and I want to say it even now, that ability to articulate and amplify what it is that you truly seek with counterpart energy, it feels very vulnerable potentially, because again, a lot of this energy in the articulation of what it is that you aspire and desire, a lot of the energy right now feels like, again, to a certain extent, you're abandoning, you're relinquishing the energetic outcome, right? For a lot of the energy right now, that observational point that sometimes something as simple as telling someone what it is that you aspire in connection could be enough to sever a potential connection. But the difference here is there's a lot of the energy in separation that's almost articulating and amplifying to themselves and saying, if simply saying to someone what it is that I truly desire in a connection is enough to sever a connection, then this is the energy that says, then so be it. Because that is the moment that the manifestation protects from what is not the manifestation, right? Because that's the moment. That's not something, that's not going to scare, like someone that desires the same things that you desire will not be scared away by you articulating and amplifying what those are. So we see even now, like that is why a lot of the energy moving forward in this way is just utilizing a lot of clarity and relationality to what it is that they're trying to manifest in partnership. Simply from the modality of saying that ability to articulate it is what they're trying to manifest. Someone who sees it in the same way, someone who views it from the same context. Because that's the difference between feeling like you're totally in partnership with someone that desires the same things as you do versus being in a relationship where it feels like there's like a unilateral decision in relationality to where something should go or what direction it'll go into. While for masculine and feminine energy, that is coming into divine union, this is a lot of energy that is getting more serious. And that ability of being more serious, even now, this is why if something is changing here in relationality to what you first articulated that you desired with a counterpart, the ability to articulate and amplify to someone that isn't the feeling of pulling the wool out from under them, but rather almost saying to someone, I did not anticipate to feel this way. I didn't know. Like what I'm experiencing with you, I didn't even know was in the realm of what was possible. And that is why I want to deepen or further the connection, because I want to see what else continues forward from this point. A lot of energy right now is changing their own manifestation goals simply because they feel like it's almost like a lot of the energy coming into divine union going, I didn't know it could be like this. I didn't know it could be this simple. I didn't know it could be that like easily inhabited, being in alignment with energy that desires the same things that I desire. So we see even now, that's a lot of that energy. It doesn't feel like they're not deepening that connection because they're changing something. They're just putting a word for what's already there between them. While for masculine and feminine energy that is deep within the divine union frequency right now, a lot of this work that we're seeing, again, comes from a place of applying that same level or degree of clarity, that same level or degree of authenticity, that ability of, again, when you're moving towards something and you're being as authentic as possible, that's not something that feels like it can change, right? And even if it isn't received in the context through which one would hope or aspire it to be, that is an energy that feels like they change what it is that they're trying to articulate to another, simply because it's not being received in the way that one would hope. It's more of that sense of hoping that, again, when you go forward in that way, someone recognizing the intentionality of care, like I want to say, like almost the care that is required to do something energetically difficult. Like that's that moment that requires a little bit of that navigating. And we see even now that the energy within the divine union is supporting one another. And how are they supporting one another? They're supporting one another by being able to accurately articulate and see the intentions. Seeing the intentions of the other. So this is the energy within the divine union frequency is supporting one another by saying to one another, I see you. Even if something that you're doing is misrecognized, even if someone else is misinterpreting, even if someone else is not able to see it because of their own ego or because of their own situation or because of their own experience, that ability of recognizing and being able to articulate and amplify the ability and the work, doing the hard thing instead of the easy thing. This is the energy that holds one another on the way and giving each other that sense of support. That's what validates and furthers that progress forward. Final card for today's spread. Between what a day, between our Queen of Wands in its reversal, in combination with our Magician in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now. Wow, we've got here, there they are. We've got here our King of Wands in its upright. So we've got the combination here of the Queen of Wands in its reversal and the King of Wands in its upright. And we need to talk about this a little bit because this is really, really important. For the energy right now, in the divine union frequency, a lot of the work that may be occurring right now that may feel somewhat frustrating, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, has to do specifically around situations and circumstances wherein both masculine and feminine energy are doing the same thing and yielding different results. Doing the same thing and yielding different results. And even here, what we see is like the ability of the energy to recognize and identify how doing something in a certain way, but it being received in a different context, specifically for no other reason than the fact that you're in an energetic alignment with one or the other. This is how these energies almost help one another to a certain extent, because these are the energies that are effectively identifying and recognizing to a certain extent how one moves and it's received in a positive way, while the other does the same thing and it can't be navigated in the same way, or it's viewed in a different context. So what are these energies kind of doing to a certain extent? They're giving each other support. They're giving each other perspective. But then they're also having faith and trust that the other will recognize and be able to interpret what they're giving, like their own experience, but then overlapping it with like their own recognized value point in relationality to how things typically work in their own experience, right? So what we're effectively seeing is, and there's a point of frustration here for the energy deep within the divine union frequency. There can almost be a moment with the masculine looking towards the feminine saying, well, that's just not fair. And feminine being like, well, welcome to yeah, I know. Like that's the energy of the feminine being like, now you understand. Because what happens when these energies are in alignment with each other, the gift that they give is the perception on each other's experience. And so for masculine, that is the heightening of the emotional sensitivity in recognizing and being able to see something from the context of the feminine perspective. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, that opens the masculine's own powers of perception, because you can recognize that someone's doing something in a way that you have success versus they have a blockage. And via V, the same for the feminine. being able to give clarity or insight on how something is being experienced that the masculine might not see. These are the energies that are effectively supporting one another because they're helping, they're like giving each other eyes where they can't, where they can't see. But even in their own experience or in their own point of view. So these are the energies within the divine union that are supporting one another, because by working together, they're almost like they build that sense of complete clarity in being able to get the bigger picture of something by being able to see something from multiple angles. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is a lot of deepening energetic connections. These are deepening commitments right now. It's having a different impact on masculine and feminine coming into that deepening of the commitment. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Because what we're effectively recognizing and seeing that is occurring in these modalities right now is for masculine, this feels like this empowering moment. This is that moment that as you become more vulnerable, you may feel like you know what you want now. It's almost like your path is becoming clearer. While for feminine, that modality of experiencing and seeing the vitality and the directness of a masculine that truly knows what they want and is able to articulate and present it to you. Why can that feel more triggering for feminine energy? Because that unlocks every moment from the past where the feminine energy didn't receive that from masculine. That's the feminine energy seeing an aspect of masculine that they may not necessarily have seen before. That is that moment that is both, like, again, overwhelming, but it's also really clarifying. So that can sometimes, again, create some feelings of energetic frustration in the feminine experiencing that, because while it may feel abundant and joyful, it can also feel very frustrating, right? While for men, because that is the feminine seeing masculine coming towards them in a place of deep authenticity. While for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation, this is the energy that is utilizing their powers of discernment going forward, trying to build into authentic connections. And that's why this is the energy I told you. You see, go look back on the past readings that we had. These characters, they were moving closer and closer and closer to each other. And now they're pretty much on top of one another. So a lot of new energetic connections are potentially forming right now. It's having a different impact for masculine and feminine that are moving forward in this way. For masculine, that ability of, again, building into a place of being very clear and authentic as it is to what it is that you aspire and desire. It feels vulnerable, but it also feels healing, because it also feels like in that moment, not only are you healing yourself, but you're trying to heal the connection of feminine towards any masculine that did not give the feminine that gift in the moment of building into connection going forward. This is the masculine saying, I'm being the change that I desire and aspire to see, not just in myself, but in all the masculine energy around me. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. And a lot of the masculine energy experiencing and recognizing feminine that sees that is that moment that if the feminine is feeling more guarded, feeling more closed off, this is almost the masculine energy that says, I don't take that personally. I understand why. I understand why, and I'm willing to take that. I'm willing to shoulder that burden, because that is the masculine. I was saying, I'm doing something in a way that is different, and I recognize that I'm helping us both heal in the process. While for feminine, that is that moment that requires a bit more discernment, because again, trust is not something that you can just receive. Someone can't hand you trust. There's only one thing that can prove whether trust is valuable or not, and that's time. So for a lot of the energy of feminine, a bit more of that trepidation, potentially even seeing a masculine coming forward to them in this way. This isn't feminine energy going, oh good, I found someone who's honest. This is the feminine energy saying, I'm taking a bit of a wait and see approach here. Because one can say that they're honest, but truly the only hallmark that allows us to determine whether trust and honesty is truly there is that external factor that cannot be controlled, which is time. Bottom of the deck on this reading today is Empress in its reversal. Remember what I said about, and look at this. Do you see this? We now have both of the court cards in combination here. They're both in alignment. We got the Emperor and the Empress. We've got the Queen of Wands and the King of Wands here. So what do we see that is effectively energetically happening? The difficulty or the hurdle around this right now. Masculine and feminine energy right now. I'm going to say it again. There might not be a lot of activity right now. These energies are in alignment. The difficulty is they're experiencing the same thing, but it's having a different impact upon them. For masculine, there may be something that is occurring right now that feels very vulnerable, but the vulnerability feels very empowering. For the feminine energy, there could be something that the feminine energy is feeling very vulnerable, but that vulnerability doesn't make the feminine feel empowered. The feminine's always in that modality of vulnerability. It's more the feminine struggling to feel empowered in the vulnerability, which is why we see the feminine energy that is pulling back a little bit right now, that's going inward, because they're both experiencing that overwhelm of the emotional sensitivity of the Cancer energy that's happening right now. But again, for the masculine, it's motivating into action and communication. For feminine, it's feeling a little bit more triggering. For feminine, for masculine, it feels like the pathwork of correcting for past mistakes or learning new lessons. For feminine, it is the resurgence of past experiences wherein they may have felt overly vulnerable or there was too much vulnerability put forth. So you can see even now, this is a little bit of that moment that's some of that struggle point, because it's creating that sense in the feminine that's a little bit hard to feel empowered within, even in the modality of experiencing something. Now, for masculine and feminine deep within the divine union frequency, this is potentially, again, if these are communications or hurdles that are occurring in, again, someone coming towards them for something, but then not appreciating what is being given. Like for the masculine, even there feels like a little bit more of the masculine wanting to take more of an articulate state on something. For feminine, it's almost the feminine just wanting to pull away from something entirely. While for masculine and feminine coming into divine union, as I said, the moment the masculine comes towards the feminine with a true offer and a point of authenticity, if the feminine hasn't experienced it again, while that's a gift to receive, suddenly it recalibrates everything that feminine has experienced prior to that point. While for masculine and feminine energy in separation, this is masculine feeling a lot of having to use a lot of bravery, if you will, to be authentic. While for feminine, this is feminine trying to be more resilient in a place or space where they feel very sensitive. So again, everyone needs to be a little bit tender. Everything's a little tender right now. So just be a little mindful of that and try not to become overly reactive, especially in the realm of taking anything energetically personally. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and receiving these messages. Just a reminder, if you'd like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I'll never DM you. I'll never PM you. I'll never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website, so I encourage you to do it there. Also, prior to us beginning our personal readings today, just a couple of updates. First and foremost, if you would like to join us on our tarot class experience, our next class will be held next Wednesday, July 17th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. We are going to be continuing our studies on the tarot with a focus on the Empress card. We've already studied the Fool, the Magician, and the High Priestess. If you would like to become a part of that class program, head over to my Substack, graystrega.substack.com. Your paid subscription will be your ticket of entry into our live class. But not only that, you'll also have access to the recordings and course materials for all of our previous classes. So you got a full week to catch up. You'll also have access to a one-on-one chat with me to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything that we're studying. And also, if you become a founding member to my Substack, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, you will also receive a one-on-one mentorship class with me, wherein we will assess where you are on your own personal tarot journey, and I'll give you the best input in terms of how to utilize the classes and your own path to the best advantage going forward. One of the things I tried to do with these classes is make them so that they would be useful to both the novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. So thank you if you're already taking classes with me. I look forward to seeing you next week, and hopefully I'll see you at our next one. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my Substack, I would encourage you to follow me there so you can stay up to date on any new events, offerings, opportunities, or giveaways that I may be hosting. I also post my live schedule there in my newsletter each week. Speaking of giveaways, I am announcing the winner to our recent tarot giveaway tonight. If you would like to become a part of that giveaway, head over to the link tree in my bio. There's a 2-minute travel survey there. Filling out that survey will grant you 1 entry. But if you'd like to increase your chances of winning, forward that survey link to a friend. Because when I pull the winner, I'm giving away not 1, but 2 tarot readings. 1 to the person I pull, and also to the person who referred them to the survey. So thank you so much if you've already taken that survey, and I wish you the best of luck in winning. Finally, I have a few new offerings. I'm very excited to offer my clientele. Above my standard life path readings, I'm now offering mentorship classes. These classes can be purchased on an individual level or as a monthly class package. That's a package of 4 45-minute classes, 1 per week, that can focus around any area of study of your choosing. I take a very limited amount of students for that very reason. Also, for my clients that are seeking more consistent tarot support, I'm very happy to now be offering weekly tarot insight packages, which is a package of 4 30-minute readings, 1 per week, so you can stay more in tune and in touch with your own personal path. All of those can be found in the link tree in my bio. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing with me in these messages, and we will do this again